Vice of Virtue here again. This Ramadan, we have completed the first week, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. We completed the first week of Ramadan, and unfortunately, may Allah reward those who aren't able to eat. May Allah replace what they don't have with something better. May Allah grant those who are dying of starvation, those Muslims out there in Somalia and other places around the world. May Allah give peace and safety and comfort to the brothers and sisters around the world facing and dealing with and suffering from the violence of oppressive regimes, of bitter people, ignorant people, hateful people. I wanted to say something nice because it's Ramadan. I wanted to make a better kind of, a less politically motivated kind of video. But unfortunately, there are some events going on around the world. For instance, what's happening in Gaza, in the West Bank, since the death of the 3 Israeli boys. As I said in previous videos, if I haven't posted it, which I probably forgot to do or didn't do because I didn't like the video, it's a tragic and unfortunate set of circumstances. However, the blame game and the whole pointing fingers, the accusations and the condemning people before a trial, before an investigation has even been made, much less completed. I think it is really troublesome and sad for political bigwigs such as Benjamin Netanyahu and these media people, these news anchors and personalities, these TV personalities, to be blaming Hamas and Palestinian so-called rebels for allegedly being responsible or being the perpetrators or the murderers of those 3 Israeli boys. I think that is absolutely sad because for generations since 1948, since the Zionist takeover of Palestine, which has been de facto wiped off the map, I think it has been bred into the generations the hatred and enmity for Arabs and Palestinians and Muslims in the West Bank and Gaza and around the world. You can see it today with the Israeli settlers attacking Palestinians. I mean, this isn't just something that's happened today or this week or this month. This has been going on for a long time. The clashes, the conflicts, these are things that have been happening for a long time. And it's all based on ignorant information or ignorant upbringing and a learned behavior. This isn't something that just came out of the blue. Unlike in America, where events such as what happened in Iran in the 80s or the 70s, or the Gulf War conflict, or the 9/11, or the First World Trade Center attack in the early 90s. This is a behavior that has been bred in Israel for a long time, and it's quite like America. What had happened in America since its inception. Today, in fact, is July 4th, 2014, right? So, of course I don't celebrate it, and for religious reasons. And secondly, I don't celebrate it because July 4th wasn't for people of color. It wasn't a holiday. It wasn't for the independence and the freedom of people of color, because well after July 4th, black people were still in slavery, in bondage, considered property, inventory, items, or objects, so to speak. So I don't care for July 4th, though in the age of colorblindedness, it's been made appropriate for everyone to celebrate it, regardless of the history of it. May, to me, is much like every other pagan holiday that has been associated with something or has nothing to do with anything but some made-up holiday. Now, back to what's happening in Palestine and Gaza. The settlers, unfortunately, they burned that little boy. They are beating on and harassing Palestinians. Usually, this is a behavior that has been ongoing. Like I said, these people are backed up. I'm sorry, let me go back because I kind of went off a little bit from where I was going. As I made it relative to what happened in America, was the fact that young white people were brought up to believe black people were less or second-class citizens, or were less than dirt for that matter. And it became really believable when the system made it clear by making laws or subjecting black people to certain laws and giving white people passes on certain laws, even though they generally apply to everybody. In Israel, however, the laws apply separately. They're two separate laws for the Palestinians and military occupation, and laws for the Israelis and the settlers. As far as the settlers go, first of all, their settlements are illegal. And the reason I say that the system is backing and enforcing this ideology that that the Palestinians are second-rate or second-class citizens is because the system backs it up with laws, enforcement, like we have in America, the police. At least now, it's pretty much free range. Everybody's a victim in America. However, the penal system still subjects more black people to incarceration than any other race. In the years to come, it may change to more Latino with the surge of Latino immigration. As far as Israel goes, there are more Palestinians in prison, and this isn't something that's just for adults. These children are imprisoned, they're abused, they're beaten, the adults the same, or they're killed. Either in the course of 20 years, a Palestinian could have probably been in prison or have been beaten or murdered by the time they're 20 or 25. And this is starting from the age of 9, 10, 11, or 12. It starts very young. This is to not only just embed it, and it's relative because, we have, in the case of the young boy George Stinney back in 1945, he was executed by electrocution for a murder that he obviously did not commit, and whether or not he committed it, such a sentence was obviously way beyond and out of proportion for a minor. I think this young boy was about 14 years old, and he was put on trial and sentenced to death in South or North Carolina in June of 1945, excuse me. And the law applies the same over there. These young boys, like they did with George Stinney, they coerced this boy into confessing to a murder that he swears he didn't commit, but then they coerced him into confessing. The same thing happens, except maybe with a little less torture. In Israel, they're torturing these boys, they're beating them and abusing them and isolating them, just like with the case of George Stinney and who knows how many others. The case with George Stinney in particular, he was separated and isolated from his family because the town in which the crime had happened and his family lived, the white population ran his family out of the town, so he didn't have any family support, any friend support. He had no support whatsoever. The whole entire town was against him, and he was pretty much by himself. He had no real lawyer or anything. So, like I said, the same thing is happening in Israel and Palestine and the West Bank and Gaza. So when the little Palestinian kids are getting killed and beaten by the settlers, the crimes may be punishable, but a lot of times, like in America, with the white population, these people are getting off, or they're being written off, or they're getting a light tap on the wrist. So most of the time, with the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force being present, these people, they have no problem shooting at Palestinians. They have no problem stoning Palestinians, who may in turn throw rocks back, in which case the IDF responds by shooting tear gas at the Palestinians who were provoked into throwing stones. So no matter what abuses the settlers inflict upon the Palestinians, no matter what the age, the IDF stands by and does nothing. It's been reported that they've been ordered not to intervene unless the Palestinians respond, in which case they defend their settlers at all costs. So you pretty much see where this is going. With that being a military issue, it's unfortunate because the laws, as far as military warfare goes, is very, very shaky for both parties. Well, for the occupied party, it's very, very oppressive and depressing for anybody who's on the outside and who has the heart and a mind of their own. So you won't hear a lot of the stuff that is coming up in recent days. You won't hear the details of what's going on unless you go to independent outlets, because the majority of the mainstream media is owned by the 6 corporations who have business ties with Israel or are owned by Israeli settlers or people associated with the Israeli government, or somebody popular in Israel, politics in general. Because in the United States, Israel owns our government for the most part, or some large portion of our government. Just like Ariel Sharon said, he's not worried about the United States and their commentary because they run the United States. Yeah, he said that. So let's all make a dua when we have a chance during our suhoor or our iftar, because those are the times when the duas are accepted, are generally accepted in Ramadan, like completely accepted. So, inshallah, we make dua for these brothers and sisters that they get justice, that their Ramadan isn't ruined by back and forth murders and reprisals inflicted upon them from ignorant and foolish individuals and corrupted people. May Allah protect our brothers and sisters in Palestine. May Allah end the killing between the Israelis and the Palestinians. May Allah bring peace to the region. May Allah bring peace to this ummah and strengthen this ummah against our enemies. May Allah bring unity to this ummah. May Allah give us that which is necessary to survive and keep this ummah afloat in a way that best suits His Majesty. Ameen, ameen, ameen. Assalamu alaikum.